How do you build the perfect disc golf bag? Well, that's the exact question I'll be answering today, as I show you what discs and accessories are essential on the course. This is Building the Bag. Hey everyone, it's Greg from Six Sided Discs, and today's video is sponsored by Squatch Disc Golf. More about them throughout today's video. The journey most disc golfers go on when they're new is pretty similar. Most of us started out with 1 to 3 discs, maybe lent to us from someone else, or a starter set we got at the store. And the first few times you went out to play, you probably just carried them with you. But pretty soon, you figured out that was annoying and impractical, so you picked up a small shoulder bag. And before too long, you start to collect more and more discs and think, I need some more room. So you grab an inexpensive backpack because you're not totally committed to this whole disc golf thing yet. But then in a month or two, that backpack is overflowing with discs. And you're even starting to find discs that you prefer for certain shots. And with any luck, you've even discovered mid-ranges and putters. And it's right about this point that you finally accept that you're obsessed with disc golf, but at least it's a healthy obsession that gets you out in nature and gets some exercise. And now that you have a big pile of discs in your trunk, garage, or closet, it's time to get a proper bag and build it out with every shot you need. And that's where the sponsor of today's video comes in, Squatch Disc Golf. And this is their flagship bag, the Legend, now in its 3rd iteration. The Legend 3.0 comfortably fits everything you need on the course. And I should know, because I've been using the first version of the Legend for a couple years now. Huge thanks to Squatch Disc Golf for sponsoring today's video. You can shop their full range of bags and bag-related accessories at squatchdiscgolf.com. We'll continue to build out this new Legend 3.0 with everything that I need on the course, but first, let's talk about why you even need room for this many discs. On an average disc golf course, you need discs that can handle a shot from 4 feet away to over 400 feet away. Depending on how far you throw, of course. And because disc golf is nothing without obstacles on the course, you'll need to shape shots at every distance, angle, and direction. And to do that, you need a variety of discs at different speeds and with different stabilities. Most players carry a mix of overstable, stable, and understable discs for each disc type: putter, mid-range, fairway driver, and distance driver. And if you're somewhat new to disc golf, there is a lot of disc golf specific terminology, so let me simplify that just a little bit. On a right-hand backhand throw like this, stable means straight. Overstable discs will want to fade left more aggressively as they fly, and understable discs will be more likely to turn to the right, like this. I'll be using my bag as an example today, building it out slot by slot and explaining what I use those discs for. Beginning with putters. Most disc golf bags have a designated putter pocket. Usually on the top of the bag, it makes your putting putters that you need on every single hole the most easily accessible. In my putter pocket, I carry both my putting putters and my approach discs. My putting putters are a pair of Axiom Electron Firm Pixels from the Simon line. You may recognize these as 2 of the pixels I used in our 10,000 subscriber special, where I did 10,000 putts. When I don't land in putting range, I pull out one of my approach discs. Approach discs are a category that's slightly faster than a putter, usually around 4 speed, and they tend to be quite overstable, quickly getting to the ground, which improves their accuracy. For overstable approaches, almost exclusively on forehand, I use this Castoplast K1 yarn. It's super overstable, not too deep, but not too shallow, and it is absolutely essential in my bag. If my drives aren't good on a particular day, this one disc will save me multiple strokes across the whole round. For backhand approaches, I like the Castoplast K1 Berg. We just recently got in these Flight Numbers Don't Matter stamped K1 Bergs, and I am loving having a Berg back in my bag again. The Berg is of course not super overstable, but it just controls the distance so well with its complete lack of glide. Most players use only one approach disc on forehands and backhands, and that one disc will accomplish all of that. But I've found that for my personal grip and style of play, I do need different discs for those different shots. For overstable backhand approaches, I've started using the Jester Disc Golf Wild Thing. It's a blunt, super overstable approach disc that gives me the confidence I need while approaching the basket. Accessible near my putter pocket is the first essential accessory you need on the course: towels. Keeping your discs dry and clean is imperative and gives you the consistent grip you need to perform at your best. Also in my putter pocket is my Mini. Minis are used to mark your lie, and if you're still new to disc golf, there are actually rules that govern legal Mini shapes and sizes. So if you decide to play in PDGA sanctioned amateur or in the future professional tournaments, make sure you go to pdga.com and find out which Minis are legal for use. Let's get back to putters though for a moment, because putters are not only for putting. In fact, if you aren't throwing putters, you should be. Throwing putters are a great tool to have on the course because they are the easiest discs to control. The faster a disc gets, the harder it is to throw accurately. I bag a pair of Axiom throwing putters, the Proxy and the Envy, for different reasons. This Eagle McMahon Prism Proton Envy is a more overstable run of Envy. Maybe not quite as beefy as an Eclipse Envy, but great for me because I'm most accurate when I throw closer to max power, and this Envy can handle all the power I have with ease. The Proxy, here in Neutron Soft, is the straight or understable complement to the Envy. So when I want similar distance, but a straighter line or maybe a smooth turnover shot, the Proxy is perfect. This main compartment here is where you'll find my throwing putters, along with almost every other disc I carry. And how you organize this section is completely up to you. I, of course, like many players, have a particular way I like it. I sort this compartment by disc type, from left to right: putters, mid-ranges, fairway drivers, and distance drivers. Then within each of those sections, I have it sorted by speed and stability. So the further right you go in the bag, the faster and more overstable the discs get. Next up in this main compartment are my mid-ranges. Mid-range discs can fly a lot farther than putters can, but they still maintain a great level of control that you just don't get from faster drivers. I carry 4 different mid-ranges, so at the distance I expect a mid-range will fly for me, I have 4 different stabilities to choose from. The most understable one in my bag is this Discmania Origin. This is a limited edition Midnight Prowl, and in this particular run it is super understable, even though this disc is marketed as a straight mid-range with flight numbers of 55, -11. This particular mid-range also flies very far for a mid-range. It actually won our What Mid-Range Flies the Farthest test in our Flight Numbers Don't Matter series at over 430 feet. Caleb threw it though, not me. A slightly less understable mid-range in my bag is this Discraft Z-Die Buzz SS. This is a disc that for me flies just a tiny bit understable, making it great for shots that just slowly move to the right. Just ahead of that instability is this, a Color Glow Origin, also from Discmania. This is another limited edition version, but one that actually flies very straight with minimal fade, much closer to the flight numbers. And this is my first opportunity to talk about something cool about disc golf, and that is you can bag multiple versions of the same disc. And this is worth doing if you have them either in different plastics or in different levels of wear. Plastic has a huge effect on how a disc flies. In fact, we have an entire series all about that. Discs are also very much affected by the level of wear that they're in. So if you find a disc that fits well in your hand, you might try it in a variety of plastics, a variety of weights, or grab a couple of the same disc and season one in while you keep a few new ones to work into your bag over time. This allows you to have multiple shot shapes from a disc that feels exactly the same in your hand pretty much every time. The last mid-range in my bag is a little bit complicated and very new. This is the ThoughtSpace Crux. I've actually had some trouble filling this slot in my bag, and I've tried a ton of different sort of overstable 5-speed mid-ranges over the last 3 or 4 years. For a while, the disc in this slot was the Prodigy Archive, but I've been trusting the Archive less and less, and recently been experimenting with a few other options, like this new Axiom Fission Pyro, or this Castaplast First Run Nord. But basically what I'm looking for in this slot is a disc that's going to not fly quite as far as my Envy, but go further to the left on a right-handed backhand. And at the moment, that disc is the Crux. But for how long? Who knows? Something I'm not having trouble deciding on is what accessories I want to carry on the course because there's plenty of room for them in my Squatch bag. My keys, wallet, and phone all have a designated spot in the legend, like this magnetic pouch that fits most smartphones, this hook to clip your keys onto, and all these extra pouches on either side. We'll get back to accessories in just a moment, but first let's talk about fairway drivers. Fairway drivers are the next big step up in speed from mid-ranges, and in this slot I bag 7 different fairway drivers. Remember, we need this variety so that we can create all the different shot shapes we need on the course. These fairway drivers range from 7 to 9 speed, and once again come in a variety of stabilities. My most understable fairway driver is this Prodigy F5 that's probably soon going to be retired from my bag. I've used it less and less lately as I've found it maybe getting too understable, but that's exactly why it's there. So if you have any suggestions on a good replacement for that slot, leave them in the comments below. One step up from that in stability is this Discmania S-Line FD, also with our Flight Numbers Don't Matter stamp. This FD is still pretty new to my bag, but I've thrown it a few times and I'm very pleased with how straight it is. It does have a subtle low speed fade, but that's exactly what I want from the disc. Next up is one of the most common slots in every player's bag. Yes, it's the T-Bird slot of 7502-ish discs. Here I have the Discmania F1 and the Castoplast Iduga. Or is it the Idug? I don't know. The comments on that video both said my pronunciation was correct and incorrect. And I'm starting to think nobody understands or knows how to speak Swedish, but whatever. Anyways, I like the Iduga for backhand shots, but not for forehands, which is why I also bag this Discmania Color Glow C-Line FD1. It's flat, which I prefer for forehand shots, and since I seem to suffer from relatively consistent elbow pain on backhand shots, I rely on forehands quite a bit. Next up in speed is this Axiom Proton Insanity, rated at 9.5, -2, 1.5. I use this for straight to slightly overstable fairway shots, where I want to push the distance a little further than the FD. And finally, we make our way to one of the most important slots in my bag in particular, overstable 9-speed fairway drivers. This is the Discraft Raptor. In fact, these are so important they have their own special little pouch in my bag. These are my go-to overstable forehand discs. A lot of players fill this slot with something like the Innova Sexton Firebird. The Raptor, though, is quite similar. With a flat top, it's overstable and has low glide, so it's great for accurate, overstable shots on the course. I always bag 2 different Raptors at any given time that are both overstable and very overstable. This one here is a new, less overstable ESP Raptor that I just added to the bag, while my more overstable one, this Aaron Gossage Tour Series Raptor from 2024, is in an interesting Z-Flex Jawbreaker plastic. I bag a ton of different distance drivers. So before we get there, let's talk about the rest of the essential accessories you need in your bag. Firstly, you absolutely need to bag a retriever. Retrievers will pay for themselves after you recover 2 to 4 discs, so it's a no-brainer to have one in your bag. I like any retriever with a suction cup ball on it. I have found it is consistently much easier to get a hold of a disc than using any kind of metal hook, but frankly, anything is better than nothing. Next up, it is absolutely essential that you have some water, and the Squatch bag has some interesting options for that, which we'll get to in just a moment. Solo rounds can easily last an hour or 2, and if you're playing with a large group, you might be pushing 3, or in a tournament, even longer. A nice insulated water bottle is great, and there's room for multiple of those in a Squatch bag. But there's actually something else hiding just back here in the back of the bag. It's an entire pouch for a water bladder. It even has gaps at the top where the tube can come out and room to clip it onto the shoulder straps. Next, I mentioned earlier that it's important to have a towel in your bag to keep your hands consistently dry, but sometimes a towel isn't enough. On a really hot summer day or a damp, soggy round, you're going to need a grip solution. Grip solutions are now a huge category of disc golf accessories designed to give you a consistent grip. Whether it's a sport sack, dirt bag, or even climbing chalk, I personally use Friction Labs chalk spheres here in a Prodigy climbing chalk bag to keep that chalk from getting all over everything else in my bag. This gives me a consistent grip all round long. The Legend 3.0 has a new dedicated location for your sport sack or chalk bag located right behind where you place all your Velcro patches on the side of the bag. I do want to give some rapid fire honorable mentions to accessories that I don't carry but I've heard other people carry, including nail clippers, because there's nothing worse than a wonky fingernail mid-round, rangefinders, either digital or analog, so you can know your exact distance to select the right disc, extra socks, because if your socks get wet, that's just a bad day all around, umbrellas, here in Ohio, rain can happen anytime, a battery pack, because these days keeping score digitally is required for all players in PDJ events. So don't let your phone die. Or patches, represent your disc golf world out on the course. Many bag manufacturers also sell accessories like a rain fly that you can use to cover the whole bag. But interestingly, the Squatch Legend does not need that, because Squatch bags are made from water-resistant nylon and have waterproof zippers. Do any of you carry any accessories that we didn't mention? Let us know in the comments below. Now let's move on to the fastest, farthest flying discs in my bag, the distance drivers. Starting with my 10-speed drivers, I have this relatively understable Discraft Z-Die Avenger SS. I can rely on this Avenger SS to get a good bit of turn, but it does usually find some low speed fade for good distance, but not maximum distance. Next up, I have a pair of MVP Trails in both Neutron and Proton plastic. You may have seen these in some of our recent videos. The Halloween Proton version is a little bit more overstable, while the Neutron is nice and straight, with some reliable fade at low speed. This means I know that I can put them out on a line, they'll hold relatively straight, and then just give me that consistent finish I'm looking for, but not too much. Moving up in speed, I have another new custom stamp from Innova. This is a Halo Star Mamba. Rated at 11.5, -5.1, in this Halo Star plastic, which is actually Innova's most overstable plastic in my experience, this Mamba probably has numbers more like 11.5, -4.2, so it definitely gets some turn, but the fade always kicks in to add some forward push at the end of its flight and makes this one of my farthest flying discs. One speed faster but way more overstable is my first 12-speed driver, the Discraft ESP Captain's Thrasher. This one is super domey, plenty overstable, but not so much that I can't get it to move around a little bit. Next up is another of our custom stamps, a beautiful Innova Halo Destroyer. Now I'm more comfortable using this destroyer on backhands when I need something super overstable, but I'm still experimenting with it on forehand. And it hasn't totally won me over just yet, because my last two distance drivers are my go-to forehand bomber discs, the Latitude 64 Rive. As a general rule, in my bag, if I have two versions of a disc, it's because I can't really reconcile with the idea of losing that disc mid-round. So whether it's my Pixels, Origin, Raptor, Trail, or Rive, I need one of those discs in my bag at all times. These Rives are slightly domey, max weight, and when I get the right angle and snap on my forehand, should be pushing close to 350 feet, sometimes more, which is as far, if not farther, than my farthest backhand shot. How you build your bag is ultimately up to you and what you need for your game. But all the disc golfers that I've known, professional, amateur, and everything in between, all follow the same general approach of having multiple discs at multiple speeds for all the different shot shapes you'll need. And all of that will help prepare you for success and fun out on the course. How do you organize your bag? And what slots are most important to you? Let us know in the comments below. And if you're ready to start filling out your bag with new discs or accessories, consider picking up some from our website, sixsideddiscs.com. The link is in the video description. Any purchases you make there directly support the content we create. And also take a moment to comment below what bag you use. Thanks again to Squatch Disc Golf for supporting our channel and sponsoring today's video. Make sure you check them out at the link in the description. For Six Sided Discs, I'm Greg. We'll see you in the next one. Which is what I use. They're all designed to And we just got these custom stamped Flight Numbers Don't Matter bergs in recently, so I had to put one back in my bag, and I am loving Just ahead of that instability is this, as a general rule, in my bag, if I bag 2 of a disc, it is because I absolutely cannot throw okay. If you like this content and want to see more, please consider liking the video, subscribing to our channel, or supporting us on Patreon. Your support makes this content possible.